Hey guys, welcome to the YouTube channel. If you're new here, it's 𝗙𝗶𝗍𝗀. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much to everybody that has subscribed to the channel. It really means a lot to me. But also, in the previous videos, I asked you guys on what you would want me to talk about because, we have to share information, right? So yeah, this clip was sent to me by one of my subscribers. But before we get into it, let's first watch the clip and then talk about it.
Black Americans in the diaspora should stay away from Ghana, Kenya, and Uganda. This comes after Uganda passed a bill in parliament that would criminalize identifying as LGBTQ and imposing the death penalty on some acts. They're saying this to protect African values, protect the church, and say, quote unquote, homosexuality is un-African. So let me get this straight. Homosexuality is un-African, but the overwhelming majority of Ugandans are Christian and Muslim, two religions that don't originate in Africa. As a matter of fact, the overwhelming majority of Ugandans are Roman Catholic and Anglican, the same Catholic church that's based in the Vatican in Europe. The Anglican Church, which the word Anglican literally means from the Church of England. Uganda has no problem letting in white evangelicals, the same white evangelicals that are the most racist, the most anti-black, and the most white supremacists in their beliefs. It has been polled in the United States that white Christians, especially white evangelicals, are more likely to express racist views than white people who are not Christian. This is the same Uganda that says they're sticking up to the West, but has been a U.S. ally for security. The same Uganda that was a U.S. ally all the way back in 2003. The same Uganda that is neoliberal. Ghana is no different. The same Ghana that says Africans must build Africa. The year of return is the same Ghana that's taken IMF loans and said that Britain and them have a great shared values and future. The same Ghana that destroyed a house for allegedly being an LGBTQ resort. Then they say, oh, it was because the owner sold it to another property. And it would be wrong for me to not bring up Kenya, who the Supreme Court said that an LGBTQ organization could register, and the Kenyan government, President William Ruto, were upset about that. Point being, Black Americans and those in the diaspora, we should have nothing to do with Ghana, Kenya, and Uganda. Their invitation is fraudulent. It's not sincere. They say they welcome all people, but that is beyond the reality. If you are a Black American and you want to go somewhere in Africa, go to South Africa, go to Angola, go to Botswana, go to Republic of Congo, go to Gabon. Don't spend your time in Ghana, Kenya, and Uganda who are giving you a fraudulent PR.
Let's move on to East Africa now. In a controversial move, Uganda's parliament on Tuesday passed an anti-gay legislation which proposes tough new penalties for same-sex relationships. Supporters of the new law say it is needed to punish a broader array of LGBTQ activities, which they say threaten traditional values in the conservative and religious East African nation.
In our country, we will have our morals. We will protect our children. And we are making this law. We are making this law for ourselves. We are making this law for our children. We are making this law for the children of our children. This country will stand firm. And once it passed, I can tell you, Madam Speaker, we are going to reinforce the law enforcement officers to make sure that homosexuals have no space in Uganda.
Now, according to the law, violations under the law draw steep penalties, including death for so-called aggravated homosexuality and life in prison for gay sex. It also criminalizes the promotion of homosexuality and abetting and conspiring to engage in same-sex relationships. The bill marks the latest in a string of setbacks for LGBTQ+ rights in Africa, where homosexuality is illegal in most countries. South Africa is an outlier on the continent as LGBTQ rights are enshrined in its constitution. Nevertheless, violence against queer people is still rife in the country. In Kenya and Tanzania, gay sex remains a crime under colonial-era laws and with penalties including prison terms of up to 14 years. Last month, the Kenyan government intensified its restrictions on imported books with LGBTQ themes after public outcry. Kenyan President William Ruto declared that same-sex marriages could happen in other countries but not in Kenya. He says homosexuality was a Western imported factor that Kenya's customs, traditions, Christianity and Islam cannot allow. In Ghana, security forces raided and shut down the office of an LGBTQ rights group in the capital Accra after politicians and religious leaders called for its closure. They later advocated for anti-gay laws to be passed in parliament last year as fears grips the LGBTQ community.
As you've seen in the video, that is an African American person. And I remember doing a video of him where he was actually telling African Americans to come into Africa, and I was really excited about it. I was so happy about it that we have people that are willing to also share information and encourage our descendants to come into the continent, right? But then in this video, because of the previous video also that I made about Uganda on the decisions that we made about homosexuality, because most African countries don't really accept the act, and it's not really more of accepting the act, but it's more of putting it in our faces. And I always tell you guys, personally as a person, I have no issues with a person, whether they are gay or straight or whatever they want to choose to be. My problem as a person is forcing it in people's faces. The fact that you want me to see your sexuality before I see you as a person. But anyway, it's not about me. Yeah. So this person is stating that African Americans should not come into my country, Uganda or Kenya or Ghana, that we are giving out false information. I don't know what false information is talking about, because for the longest time, most African presidents or leaders, they've been saying no to homosexuality for a very, very long time. Like, that is something as an African I've seen being consistent when it comes to African leaders. And he goes on to tell African Americans to go to South Africa because that's where it's very okay and legal to be a homosexual, which is still fine for me because I still want to see my African descendants from America, Europe, or Asia, wherever, to still come into the continent. But one thing I have an issue with this video is he's trying to portray that Africa is somehow attacking African Americans because of sexuality, which is to me absurd, honestly. I love my descendants, but you're not going to come into a country that has rules and regulations and break them because you're entitled. This is something that is called entitlement. I'm sorry to say, but it's not always about African Americans or African descendants when it comes to you getting your way into things. If you're willing to come into Africa, specifically Uganda, my country, and you clearly know this is how their culture is, these are the religions they believe in. I don't even believe in the religions, but they do exist. But we do not condemn the people because of religion, right? The same way we used to have homosexuals, and we do have them in our countries. Let's not pretend like they do not exist. We just didn't give importance to it because it's not something to throw in people's faces. I don't go around to tell people how straight I am, but I don't go around throwing my sexuality in people's faces. But it seems like homosexuals are kind of doing that, and it's not cool. It's not okay. In this video, he's telling African Americans that they should go to Gabon or other African countries, which is to me okay, or Botswana, which is really fine. But it shouldn't be that you're telling people to not come into my country or other East African countries or other countries because of a rule that you clearly know Africans do not really accept. Us as Africans, we see that act as a Western thing. We are trying to deconstruct from things like religion. We are trying to fix our education. We are trying to talk about things like health. We are trying to even fix our politics. So He's basically saying in this video that, you know what, you still have these other religions that are not even African. Why aren't you accepting this? It's been happening. Let's not lie about it. In my country, Uganda, I've seen homosexuals. Have you gone to the fashion industry of every African country? Because that's where the majority of them are. We know, but we do not put a lot of importance into it because it really doesn't matter, right? And I would still stand with what the African rules state. If you are going into a country that says you're not supposed to do this, why do you feel entitled that you should go and force it to happen? When Arabs, when you go to Dubai or Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Arab nations and they say you're not supposed to dress a certain way, would you go and dress a certain different way than the way they've told you to dress? Why is it when it comes to Africa, you have that entitlement that when leaders say something that actually involves all of us as a group of people, don't make it seem like African leaders are putting rules to somehow attack African Americans or African descendants. And yeah, we are welcoming you, but we are welcoming you in bits. If you go to Europe, do you behave the same way you behave in America? Why is it that you want to behave the way you behave in America? In Africa, we have our cultures, we have our rules. Can you try to respect that? And he also stated on how Ghana is giving citizenship to African Americans, which I really appreciate and I really love, right? But then he also goes on to say that in Ghana, a home of homosexuals was put down or allegedly broken down. Why did the African Americans feel entitled to promote and build a house that promotes an act that they clearly heard was illegal in the country? Why? That is some sense of entitlement I really cannot stand. And however much I really want you guys to come into the continent, try to respect the rules that are made in Africa. So this video is really something that took me off guard. I really did not expect it from this creator because I thought he understood and he's actually very entitled to his opinion. Just don't make it seem like everything revolves around African Americans. That because a certain rule does not apply to you or to a certain group, then you shouldn't come into the continent. Really? You're basically telling everyone, whether they are straight or not, to not come because of a certain rule. And another thing that actually also happened is that the government or the parliament of Uganda clearly voted no against the act. So it's really illegal in Uganda. That is point blank. If you are coming to Uganda, please do not expect that you're going to express your sexuality of being attracted to a same-sex person and it's going to be okay. No. People are going to cuss you out. That's the truth. Because we have cultures and morals that do not accept it. And also people are trying to make it seem like, it was in Africa or it is an African thing. Maybe it was, maybe it is. But if we are not willing to accept it now, can you respect what Africa is trying to do? We are trying to develop ourselves. We are trying to break the barriers. So if we are trying to, still divide ourselves over sex, when we still have a lot of things to work on and heal ourselves as Africans, as Black people, connections, fixing our economy, fixing our businesses, supporting ourselves, and all these things that can really lift us, like fixing the education of Black people. I really don't know how we are going to elevate ourselves. I just want you guys to understand that not everything revolves around, you guys. It's a balance. We respect you, you should respect us back. And that is something I will not take back. I will not take it back. It's clearly my opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. This gentleman is entitled to his opinion. But I will not stand the disrespect and entitlement that some African Americans have when it comes to coming to Africa, but they can respect other nations like China or Arabs or Europe. But when it comes to Africa, that's when they feel they are attacked over a certain rule that clearly Africans or African leaders have been consistent on. Yeah, that's what I have to say, guys. Thank you, guys. That is it for today. I hope you liked the video. Tell me what you really think. Do you think African rules should not really matter? Do you think we should just accept everything that is presented to us on the plate and not have an opinion and not have any rules of our own to be respected? I don't understand. Yeah, that is it for today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.